The blind date was empty until three little girls walked in and said, "My dad is sorry he's late." "Excuse me, are you Sierra?" The voice startled her, small, confident, delicate, but it didn't match any waiter or barista. Sierra looked up from her phone, already smiling politely, but the sight before her wasn't a server. It wasn't even another adult. It was three little girls, all about 5 years old, standing neatly in a row beside her table. Blonde curls framed their faces like soft halos. They wore matching red sweaters that screamed either holiday cheer or highly organized chaos. And their eyes, big, expectant, and full of something far too determined for 5-year-olds. "We're here for our dad," the second girl announced, as if that settled everything. "He's really sorry he's late. There was an emergency at work." Sierra blinked, once, twice. She looked around the cafe, hoping for some context. Was this part of some prank or candid camera? No one seemed especially alarmed, just a few raised brows and amused glances from nearby tables. This was supposed to be a blind date, a casual coffee, maybe flirt a little. Get to know the nice guy with soulful eyes Jane swore up and down was worth meeting. But Jane left out a massive detail. The guy apparently came equipped with triplets. And these weren't just any triplets, these were little girls who seemed to have stepped straight out of a Hallmark script and into her real life. Sierra lowered her phone, confusion slowly giving way to curiosity. "Wait, your dad sent you?" The first girl nodded with the enthusiasm of someone proud of their mission. "Well, not technically. Doesn't know we're here yet. But he's gonna be," the second one chimed in. "We promise. And we really wanted to meet you," said the third, her voice soft but firm, like this had been weeks in the works. At that point, Sierra wasn't sure whether to panic or order another coffee. The smallest of the girls, clearly the leader, climbed into the empty chair across from her with the grace of a talk show host. "I'm Aria," she said, extending a hand like this was a business deal. "This is Nova and Luna. We're 5, and we're really good at keeping secrets," Nova added, eyes wide with sincerity. "Except this one," Luna whispered, leaning across the table with a grin, revealing a tiny gap where her front teeth used to be. Sierra laughed. She couldn't help it. The energy, the certainty, these girls weren't just adorable. They were magnetic. "All right, ladies," Sierra said, settling into the moment. "You've got to start from the top. How did you even know I'd be here?" Aria folded her arms, her tiny brows furrowing like she was about to give a PowerPoint presentation. "We overheard Dad on the phone with Aunt Jane. He said he was meeting a lady named Sierra at the Rosewood Cafe, and he was all nervous and stuff. He kept fixing his tie a million times," Nova said. "And he never fixes his tie," Luna nodded. "So we knew it was important." And that's when Sierra felt her resolve start to melt just a little. "So, you all dressed up and came here without him." "Not without him exactly," Nova clarified, sounding very grown up. "He got a call when we were still at home. Something broke. He had to go fix it. But we didn't want him to think he forgot about you," Aria said earnestly. "'Cause he totally didn't. He was really excited. Even burned the pancakes," Luna added matter-of-factly. "He always burns the pancakes," Nova said with a sigh. "But today was like epic-level burned." Sierra's laughter bubbled up again, this time effortless. These girls weren't just filling in for their dad. They were campaigning for him, and it was working. Over the next few minutes, the pieces of the story fell into place somewhat. They de-persuaded their nanny to bring them here on the grounds that Dad had approved it, which apparently he most definitely had not. "He will, though," Aria defended. "Once he knows it worked." "Wait," Sierra said, trying to piece it together. "Once what worked?" Luna leaned forward, eyes bright. "Our plan to help Dad not give up on being happy." Sierra sat back slowly. The weight of that one sentence crashed over her like a slow, rising tide. "You planned this?" "Well, kind of," Nova said. "We prayed about it too and drew a diagram." Aria leaned her elbows on the table like a seasoned negotiator. "You see, Daddy S been sad for a long time, but he laughs when Aunt Jane talks about you. He smiles when he thinks we're not looking," Nova added. "But then stops and gets all quiet again," Luna whispered. Sierra bit her bottom lip, caught between awe and heartbreak. She looked at the 3 miniature messengers in front of her, and suddenly dating a guy with kids didn't seem like baggage. It seemed like a blessing. Carefully, Sierra asked, "Tell me something. Does your dad know you feel this way?" All 3 shook their heads. "He'd never say anything. He worries we'll get hurt." "He hugs us a lot," Luna said, "instead of getting mad." Sierra felt her chest ache. Dylan Grant, whoever he was already leaving an impression, and he hadn't even arrived. "And your mom?" she asked gently. "She's an actress," Aria said simply. "Really famous now. We see her on TV sometimes." "She loved us," Nova added, "but she loved acting more." There was no bitterness in their voices, just what sounded like truth, pure and unflinching. Kids accept more than they should have to. "Dad says we're enough," Luna whispered, climbing halfway out of her seat to reach for Sierra's hand. "But we think he's wrong," Aria said boldly. "We think he deserves someone who stays." Someone who stays. The words hit Sierra hard. At that moment, she wasn't thinking about how messy life could get or how complicated second chances could be. She was thinking about a man she hadn't even met, and the 3 tiny hearts who loved him enough to rewrite the ending for him. "I don't know if I'm perfect," Sierra said quietly, "but I'd like to meet your dad when he's ready." "He is," they said in unison. "He just doesn't know it yet," Arya winked. 20 minutes later, Sierra had completely forgotten that this started as a blind date. The girls were now sipping hot chocolate on her tab and chatting like they'd known her for years. "Dad once tried to braid our hair for school," Nova giggled. "It looked like, I dunno, a bird ran into it." "3 birds," Luna corrected, setting off another wave of giggles. Sierra laughed along with them, her smile wide, real, unguarded. She didn't remember the last time she felt this light. Was it before her ex-fiancé left? Before the doctor's words infertility, low chances, burrowed so deep they became part of her internal script? It was then that Arya tilted her head, studying Sierra like she wasn't just sizing up a new friend, but a possible new future. "Do you have kids?" Question was like a feather, soft, but still somehow sharp. Sierra's smile faltered slightly. "No," she said. Nova, unfazed, asked, "Do you want them?" The honesty in their eyes made her forget this wasn't a second or third date, it was a nun-date. But these weren't ordinary kids, this wasn't an ordinary story. "Yes," Sierra admitted. "I always thought I would, I dreamed about it when I was little, but sometimes life doesn't exactly ask what you want." Luna studied her quietly. "Why not?" Sierra took a breath. Her voice was calm, but it trembled just slightly. "I was engaged once. We were gonna start a family, but he changed his mind. When I found out it might be hard for me to have children, he decided that wasn't what he signed up for." Arya frowned. "That's sad." "It is," Sierra nodded, "but I've made peace with it, mostly." Nova patted her hand in small, comforting strokes. "Maybe you don't have to have kids. Maybe you just need to find some like us." Sierra's heart swelled. She didn't even know how she'd respond when the cafe door suddenly flew open, letting in a rush of Seattle air and him. A man stood there, breathless, clearly having run. His tie was uneven. His short brown hair was wind-blown, and his eyes, those were Jane's kindest eyes, were scanning, panicked, until they landed on the corner booth. 3 blonde halos, 1 woman. He froze. "Oh no," Arya whispered. "She's here," Nova said. Luna smiled like a movie twist had just landed perfectly on cue. Mission accomplished. Dylan Grant stood at the threshold of what had to be both the most embarrassing and the most heartbreakingly beautiful moment of his entire life. He'd handled screaming triplets, solitude, deadlines, even a sock puppet theater birthday party, but nothing prepared him for this. His phone had been lighting up during the office emergency. The nanny was frantic. "Mr. Grant. The girls say you told them to come to Rosewood Cafe? I think you should come. Now." He had skipped traffic laws. He had cursed under his breath the whole way. And now he was frozen, staring at his children, chatting animatedly with a woman who looked stunned but not exactly annoyed. "Hi, Daddy," Luna called, waving like this was a PTA meeting. Every customer in the cafe turned. Dylan forced his legs to move. It felt like walking through molasses in a spotlight. He arrived at the table, mortified and breathless. I am so sorry." His eyes flicked to Sierra. "I didn't know, I had no clue they did this." Sierra blinked up at him, her smile gentle but laced with amused challenge. "So you're the guy who stood me up?" His wince was immediate. "Yeah, technically, but not intentionally. I swear I was going to call. There was a major issue at work and—" "Dad," Arya interrupted. "We handled it." "She's not mad," Nova added confidently. "She already likes us," Luna pointed out, pride in her voice. Dylan looked like he was desperately trying to salvage dignity, but any defense crumbled under Sierra's soft expression. "You've raised absolute charmers," she said. "I'm honestly so sorry this is how we're meeting," Dylan said with a quiet groan. "This isn't how I planned it." "How did you plan it?" Sierra asked, eyes gleaming. "Not this," Dylan muttered, running a hand over his tired face. "Something way calmer, less chaotic. Definitely fewer scheming humans under 4 feet tall." Sierra nodded thoughtfully. "Normal is boring anyway." He glanced up. She was smiling, not the "I'm polite but wanna leave" kind of smile, but one filled with curiosity, warmth, maybe even hope. "My daughters are usually banned from my love life," Dylan said, rubbing the back of his neck. "But clearly that policy didn't work today." "Don't blame them," Sierra said. "They made this the most unforgettable date I've ever had." Va leaned against Dylan's arm. "Can we invite her to dinner?" "And continue the date?" Arya offered innocently. "We help cook," Luna added like that tipped the deal over. Dylan folded his arms. "Girls, Sierra probably has plans. We can't just—" "I don't," Sierra interrupted, surprising them all, including herself. Her voice softened. "I came to meet someone, and technically I already did, just a little out of order." Dylan looked at her, long and careful. "You'd come to dinner." "The invite is still open," she said. The girls delivered a chorus of cheers loud enough to rattle the espresso machine. Sierra stood. Dylan blinked at her. "Okay," he said, voice almost rasping. "Let's do this. Let's go home." Later that night, Dylan's home was chaos wrapped in warmth. Not Pinterest perfect, but perfectly theirs. Crayon drawings covered the walls, stick figures with labeled names, rainbows, and a suspicious number of animal-themed doodles cluttered the living room. The fridge was a mosaic of magnets, drawings, and sticky calendar notes, appointments, dance recitals, post-it doodles. One calendar slot caught Sierra's eye: coffee date with Sierra, written in Dylan's unmistakably hopeful handwriting weeks before now. "You live in a castle," Sierra said with a soft smile. Aria puffed her chest. "Yep, it's not fancy, but we make up stories." "Every house is a castle if you love the people in it," Luna recited like it was a sacred motto. Dylan, now in the kitchen attempting to start dinner, peered over the counter. "They've been reading too many fairy tales again." "I love fairy tales," Sierra called back, and she meant it. They gave her a grand tour, 3 little beds in a U shape, each with entirely different decor, a toy box overflowing, a bookshelf that reminded Sierra of childhood, dented corners, tattered spines. That's when they showed her the photo wall. "This is us when we were babies." There was Dylan, years younger, holding 3 swaddled infants, looking simultaneously terrified and completely overwhelmed with love. There were birthday parties and beach trips and Halloween outfits, but through all of them, one person was missing. "Their mom?" Sierra asked gently. Aria's answer was instantly honest. "She left when we were tiny. We don't remember much." "She's famous now," Nova added. "We see her on TV." "She sends cards sometimes," Luna said, "but we don't really know her." And Sierra, God help her, understood every aching weight behind their matter-of-fact delivery. "She must have been pretty special," Sierra said softly. "She had dreams," Aria replied. "That's okay, right?" "Sure," Sierra whispered, her heart shattering and somehow also opening, because the soothing way these kids talked about loss told her everything about the man raising them alone. "He says we're enough," Nova said. "But we still think he needs someone who stays," Luna finished. And Sierra just nodded, tears quietly pricking her eyes. She was supposed to have coffee, maybe one date, a polite goodbye, but what she got was the start of a whole new story. Dinner wasn't perfect. The pasta was slightly overcooked. The garlic bread had crispy corners and a soggy middle. The salad was mostly lettuce with a few lonely cherry tomatoes, but none of that mattered, because the girls, they were all noise and laughter and lightning in sneakers. They interrupted each other constantly, trading wild stories and asking Sierra 100 tiny questions with the attention spans of moths in a lamp shop. And Sierra, she didn't mind at all. Across the table, Dylan tried to keep things orderly with no shouting, and one at a time, please, but the girls steamrolled him with charm. At one point, Aria spilled a little grape juice, and before Sierra could react, Dylan was already blushing. "I promise I usually have this more together." Sierra sipped her wine and smiled wide. "If I wanted together, I would have stayed at the office." It was easy, too easy. In a brief lull, Nova chewing intently, Aria explaining how Pluto should still count as a planet, Dylan leaned slightly across the table. "So, what do you do when you're not fielding blind dates gone rogue?" "I run a nonprofit," Sierra answered, setting her fork down. "It connects underprivileged kids with the arts, music, painting, theater, anything that helps them find their voice." Dylan raised his brows with honest admiration. "Wow, he chuckled. "That makes my tech job feel like I sort widgets." "Widgets change the world," she teased. "Don't let anybody tell you different." Behind the tone, though, was truth. They both wanted to make the world better, one system, one child, one recovering heart at a time. "I bet you're great at it," Dylan said. "I try," she replied, but something flickered in her eyes, something tender, unresolved, and then it happened. Aria pushed her plate forward and blurted out, "She told us she might not be able to have kids." Sierra froze. Nova said quickly, "In the coffee shop, she trusted us." Luna nodded, chewing thoughtfully. She was sad but strong. The table went still, Sierra's cheeks flushed. "Sorry, that wasn't dinner conversation. I didn't mean to," but Dylan didn't flinch, didn't shift awkwardly. In fact, his gaze only softened, his voice lowered. "You told them." "They asked," Sierra said simply. "And I don't lie to kids," Dylan exhaled. "That must have been hard. I'm sorry," Sierra nodded. "It was. My ex-fiancé left the day we got the test results, said he couldn't imagine not being a dad, said I should have told him sooner." She chuckled bitterly. "I guess I was just supposed to schedule my doctor breakdowns around his comfort zone." Dylan didn't laugh, his eyes darkened, jaw tight. "You deserved better, a hell of a lot better." "Daddy," Luna gasped. "No swearing." "Family rule," Nova added, wagging a finger at him. Even when someone seriously needs it, Arya concluded. Dylan raised both hands in surrender. You're right, I take it back, but still, he's a fool. Sierra couldn't stop the smile curling at her lips, watching this man, this strong, exhausted, arms full of love man, get corrected by three little girls with fairness in their bones. It was a whole new kind of attractive. Between us grown-ups, she said, voice low, he kind of was. Dylan chuckled. I'm glad you see it too. A beat passed, a quiet moment full of something deeper than flirtation. Then Sierra spoke again, her tone steadier, laced with meaning. He taught me something, though. Dylan looked up. Yeah, what's that? That family isn't just biology, it's who shows up every day, no matter what, it's who chooses to stay. Dylan's throat tightened. He nodded slowly. That's right. And then, just as naturally as breath, the girls insisted on showing Sierra their bedtime routine. No pressure, Dylan said, already flustered. You really don't have to, they just get intense. But Sierra followed anyway. She watched as Dylan read them a story about pirate dinosaurs. He used different voices for each one, committed like a damn Shakespearean. She saw him tuck them in, kiss each tiny forehead, and whisper the same goodnight he probably had whispered every day since they were born. We love you, Daddy. I love you more. That stayed with her. When she returned to the living room, Dylan was putting away a few dishes, stealing glances at her like he wasn't sure she'd still be here. Well, she said softly, I didn't expect that blind date to involve bedtime stories and spilled juice, but I'm glad it did. Dylan leaned on the counter, arms crossed. There was something heavier now, something he was holding back. Thank you, he said finally, for being so kind to them. You didn't have to stay. Sierra moved closer, expression gentle. I didn't stay out of pity, Dylan. I stayed because I wanted to, and your daughters, they're amazing. He nodded, voice rough. I'd like to say I did it all on my own, but honestly, I've just been surviving. Their mom left when they were 6 months, got a big audition, didn't come back. Melissa Hart? Sierra asked quietly. I recognized the eyes. Yeah, Dylan replied. You've probably seen her name. She's everywhere now. Sierra nodded. She didn't want kids. She said she did once. But when the birth control failed and the doctor said it was triplets, something changed. I think she tried at first, but she was never in it for the long haul. She chose the audition, Sierra murmured, and said she'd send money, said she'd try to visit, but first it was weeks, then months, then the girls turned one and the calls stopped. I don't hate her, but they never deserved to feel like they weren't enough. Sierra's eyes welled again. They don't feel that way, she whispered. Thanks to you. Dylan blinked, looked away. His voice cracked a little. I've been scared to bring anyone into their lives. What if I chose wrong again? What if someone else walks out? Dylan, Sierra said, moving closer, you don't need someone perfect. You just need someone honest. Someone who knows what it feels like to be left behind and would never do that to someone else. He met her eyes, and she saw it all, the sheer weight of his devotion, the fear, the hope buried beneath years of exhaustion. You're special, he said. Jane was right. Sierra smiled, tears catching in her lashes. So are you. They stood like that. Something unspoken passed between them, the start of something that wasn't built on sparks or seduction, but on two people standing in the ruins of their pasts, willing to build something real. I want to see you again, Dylan said at last. Properly, a real date, just you and me. I'd like that, Sierra replied. But fair warning, I might still insist on hanging out with the girls. They are kind of the best part. Dylan laughed, loud, free, like someone remembering how to. It was the kind of laugh that meant change. One date turned to 2, then 5, then too many to keep track of. By the time spring rolled around, Sierra wasn't just Dylan's date, she was part of the rhythm. She started showing up to dance recitals, always front row, cheering louder than the moms with monogrammed tote bags. She brought glitter for their poster signs and snacks with their favorite juice boxes, all labeled with tiny bows. She learned Nova's obsession was science, mini volcanoes, and melted crayons. Arya read space books like they were the key to living beyond Earth. And Luna had a growing rock collection tucked in a shoebox under her bed, each stone coded in meaning only she could explain. Dylan laughed more now. The tired lines under his eyes softened. At night, he'd call Sierra after bedtime, sometimes falling asleep mid-sentence but never forgetting. Not anymore. They asked about you again, he told her one night, voice warm over the phone. Yeah, what did they ask? If you're gonna be their new mom. Sierra froze, not because she was afraid, but because a part of her had already wondered the same thing. What you tell them? She asked gently. I told them that's not how it works, that these things take time, that none of us are in a race. A pause. But that I really, really hope the answer is yes someday. Her heart clenched in every direction. Mine does too, she whispered. By December, Sierra was spending more time in Dylan's house than her own apartment. The apartment eventually sat untouched, like a suitcase waiting to be unpacked from a vacation she didn't want to finish. She helped with homework while Dylan cooked dinner. He helped fold nonprofit grant letters while she read bedtime stories. One night during bath time chaos, Luna tugged at Sierra's sleeve with soap dripping from her curls. "Will you come to our school concert? Daddy always comes alone and we want you there this time." Sierra looked at Dylan, who was untangling holiday lights with Nova and Aria, and he looked back with a soft, wordless smile. "I'd love to," Sierra said, and meant it. The Christmas concert, the night of the concert, snow was beginning its slow descent. Inside the overcrowded auditorium, Sierra sat beside Dylan. The lights dimmed, the crowd hushed, and soon 3 tiny angels, literal angels, wings and halos askew, stepped onto stage. When Nova looked out into the crowd and spotted them, her whole face lit up. Dylan reached for Sierra's hand, held it tighter than she expected, and didn't let go during the songs, the laughter, not even when the curtain fell. Later in the parking lot, the girls ran ahead sugar high and stomping snow piles while Dylan pulled Sierra aside. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For staying, for showing up, for not running when this whole thing got messy." Sierra squeezed his hand. "Dylan, this isn't complicated. This right here, this is the best thing that ever happened to me." And before anyone could say another word, right there beneath the school's twinkling lights, he kissed her, soft, easy, full of heat and hope. From the car, 3 squeaky voices erupted. "She kissed Daddy. Finally! I told you it was gonna happen at Christmas." The drive home was filled with giggles. But Sierra didn't care, because something had snapped into place. Not as a surprise, but as something that had been quietly building since the first cup of cafe hot chocolate. The quiet magic of everyday love, the months that followed, weren't flashy. They weren't packed with grand trips or candlelit declarations. They were better. They were slow mornings with Sierra making pancakes, teaching Dylan how to flip instead of scorch. They were disagreeing respectfully over dinner. Sierra liked rom-coms, Dylan found them unrealistic but sweet. They were late-night talks about what scared them. Dylan confessed a fear he hadn't voiced before, that if I stopped working so much, I'd remember how empty I used to feel, how alone. He said it like a confession. Sierra reached across the couch, her touch gentle, her voice steady. "You're not alone anymore. Let me carry some of it with you." He buried his face into her hand. And little by little, he let her. The girls stopped asking when Sierra was visiting. They started asking when she was coming home. And one afternoon, while Luna did math at the kitchen table and Aria was alphabetizing her book pile and Nova complained about a broken volcano project, Sierra looked around and realized her heart already lived there. She didn't need a lease to prove it. She had 3 reasons and 1 man to know. She'd found home. 1 year later, Rosewood Cafe Redux. The Rosewood Cafe hadn't changed much, twinkling light strings, fresh baked smells, and calm Seattle snow falling just beyond the window panes. But everything else was about to be brand new. Sierra walked in at exactly 7:00 p.m. Jane had texted her the night before. "Wear something nice. Rosewood, don't ask questions." She respected the mystery. But when she opened the door, her breath caught. Her Dylan, stood by the same corner table where chaos had first found her. He wore a well-fitted navy suit, his hair swept back, nervous energy rolling off of him in gentle waves. Beside him stood Aria, Nova, and Luna, in matching red dresses and proud little grins, holding a handmade sign glittering with stars and crooked handwriting. "Say yes, Sierra." Sierra's hands flew up to her mouth. Time stood still. Every customer paused. Even the espresso machine seemed to stop hissing. "Prize!" cried 3 tiny voices in unison. Dylan stepped forward, voice shaking with a calm he fought to hold. "A year ago, I was terrified, terrified to try again, terrified to be enough, terrified to love someone who might walk away again." He pulled a small velvet box from his coat pocket. "But you didn't just accept me, you accepted all of us. You joined dance recitals and bedtime routines. You let yourself be part of our world without making it yours at first. You just showed up." Luna stepped forward, voice angel soft. "We love you. And we want you forever," Nova added. "So does Daddy," said Aria, flashing a conspiratorial grin. Dylan got down on one knee. "Sierra Brooks, will you marry me?" He opened the box. A simple, elegant ring sparkled like a yes waiting to happen. "Will you let us be your family?" The coffee shop held its breath. Sierra didn't. Tears poured freely now as she dropped to her knees to hug all 3 girls at once. "Yes," she whispered, and then bursting louder, "Yes, I love you all so much." The cafe erupted in gentle claps and awes. Dylan stood and kissed her gently right there beside the crushed Oreo crumbs and spilled hot chocolate dreams where it all began. The triplets swarmed them, squealing. "We're getting married. We're gonna be a real family. I told you the mission would work." Outside, the snow fell heavier, steady and magical, like it knew the importance of the moment. Sierra turned to Dylan slowly, her voice filled with quiet, raw truth. "I can't have children, not biologically." "You already do," he said, glancing at the three joy bombs now twirling in their red dresses. Arya tugged her dress down to look up at Sierra. "Can we call you Mommy now?" It shattered her, in the best way. She knelt, arms around them, one hand dragging Dylan in two. "If you want to," she whispered, a tear escaping down her cheek. "If we want to," Arya said, eyes sharp, twirling again. "We planned for it." Final word, the storybook ending. That was always real. Sierra Brooks used to think her story had ended before it started, that the life she'd planned walked away the day her fiancé bylaid. Turns out, her story wasn't over. It was just waiting. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive with flowers and chocolates. Sometimes it arrives 3 years late in matching red sweaters, carried in the smallest hands on the bravest mission. Sometimes love shows up because 3 little girls broke every rule to make sure their father got a second chance. And sometimes, if you're lucky, love stays.